This is Kim Ventura. I am with Rizing, and our purpose in myself and my friend Raj being here today is to talk to you about the 1H 2022 compensation release notes. It's a very exciting time every time that release notes come around, and Raj and I have some things to share with you. So again, my name is Kim Ventura. I am a principal consultant for Rizing, and I work in many of the talent modules, compensation and variable pay being a couple of them that I focus on. And it's always an exciting and fun time when release notes come around because we have a preview of all the great and wonderful things that SuccessFactors is putting in place for us. I've been working with the tool for over 10 years now, been working with Rizing for about 3 years, and I have multiple various types of experience with the different modules. So I'll go ahead and pass it over to my good friend Raj.
Thank you, Kim. Hi, everybody. I'm Raj Bandaru. I'm with Rizing for the last 1.5 years, and prior to that, I have around 7 years on the same application on my experience. And apart from this, I also have domain as well as SAP on-premise experience. As Kim mentioned, we'll be going through the compensation module related release reviews. And to start with, the first one is help text for comp fields when designing plan worksheets. What does this basically mean is an administrator will have a capability to add help text in multiple, not only just the help text in the preferred language, also in the into multiple languages that can be maintained against each column field in a worksheet. This has basically been picked up from the customer's request from the last couple of years and been built and made available or released part of the current one. I would like to cite a few use cases which will help every one of us understand what this new feature is all about, or where it can be used in a business scenario. This basically provides a context to better understand the significance of a particular column whenever a help text is being provided. This will also help providing understanding of a technical name of a column. Let's say if a column has some formula or a calculation in it, right? Then this will also help providing information about how the column data is calculated. If there is any kind of a complex calculation, such columns can be made more easy to understand using this help text. One thing to keep in mind is at this time, the help text is limited up to 10 column fields on a worksheet. I'm sure this will improve the end user experience. This is a universal feature and is part of the general availability. I see this feature providing increased understanding to planners and participants in the compensation planning process. What do you think, Kim, about this feature?
Totally agree with you, Raj. This is a feature that customers have asked for quite some time. In fact, I just recently had a customer that had varying populations in different parts of the world. And one of those populations was brand new to the whole compensation planning process and not really used to going into a worksheet and making recommendations. And they had a few sort of tricky columns on their worksheet. So in order to have a little button that you could push to understand more about what this column means and what I'm supposed to do with it, I think would have been very beneficial for this customer. And I think they'll probably take advantage of it when they prepare for their next cycle. So I'm super excited about this. One of the things that we talk about in implementations is in the very beginning, we talk about what's going to make this project successful. What are our keys to success? And usually a key from the planning perspective is to have a user-friendly experience. So this idea of having help text on your columns, I think will increase that user friendliness and help planners to have a better experience. So I'm very much in favor of this this new feature. So let's move on to another topic in compensation for this 1H 2022 release, and that is being able to update total compensation worksheets, the variable pay piece of a total compensation worksheet through executive review import. This is a feature that's been around for a very long time on the compensation side of things, where it's been possible to go into executive review, export your information, make some changes on those editable columns, and then import it back in. So that's been a feature in compensation only for a very long time. Now, it was a couple years ago, I think, or maybe several releases ago, that that feature became available for variable pay. So this increases the flexibility of an admin. Sometimes during a cycle, there will be opportunities where data will change or something's a little different than what the administrator or the company or the business had originally planned. So they need to do some changing of the data of those columns in variable pay. And it's much easier to be able to do that through an import rather than needing to go in and either direct your users to do it themselves or manually go in as an administrator. So that brings forth a lot more flexibility for your admins. Now, this feature, as great as it is, was not available previously for total compensation. So total compensation is when you take a compensation worksheet and a variable pay worksheet and basically marry them together into one. And it was not, for the variable pay side of things, not available previous to this release. So I think that with this new feature, it is going to increase the flexibility of your admins. It will make the executive review import much more useful, and also allow and bring more parity between comp and bear pay and total compensation. So it might be a game-changing decision maker when customers are trying to figure out if they want to use total comp or if they want to use compensation and variable pay separately. This is a universal update. It's generally available, so no fancy bells and whistles that need to be turned on in order to make it work. You'll need to do some role-based permissions and make sure that you have company settings turned on properly. But once you have that done, then it's going to be a great tool. What do you think, Raj?
Definitely agree with you, Kim. I have few clients who have total comp template set up and been using for a couple of years. And most of them face a challenge when it comes to offline editing, and especially when they have those leadership discussions to finalize the compensation planning, right? And in such discussions, they would prefer to have an Excel document to work on rather than getting into a system and each of them making those edits or something like that.
Yep, totally agree.
So this is going to be a real good game changer, especially for clients who have total comp template set up and would prefer to have an offline planning activity done and then import it back into the system.
Yep, agree.
Let me go with the next one. This is related to role-based permissions specific for compensation lookup tables. What does this mean is, until the current release, there was no control or a security feature available where an administrator can control access for different group individuals within the system to a specific lookup tables. This is something which has been an ask for some of the customers in the past, primarily because lookup tables consist of some critical or sensitive information relating to the compensation planning. So this basically enables the security capability within the system. So this new security capability comes as a result of multiple requests, as I said, like part of the customer influence ideas. And administrators can now enable role-based permissions to control who can view compensation lookup tables. This is also bringing in a new level of decentralization into the system, allowing regional and local compensation administrators to access a specific lookup table based on the permissions that's been set up in the system. This also provides an added layer of security with lookup-based sensitive data. This is a universal update and is part of the general availability. I see this capability help administrators to control access to sensitive data within the compensation module, thus expanding the potential for additional admins to be part of the compensation process. What do you think about this, Kim?
I will echo what you've said so far. I have had customers in the past who are interested in the concept of decentralization, and there is a tool that's available, but not quite built out all the way sometimes that customers want. So this will have that added layer of security. Maybe the customer has some lookup information that's user ID based that has sensitive salary or LTIP information in it, and maybe only certain regions should see that information. So this gives the availability to break your administrative group out a little bit more. And instead of the bottleneck that would be created by each of the regions sending in their information to one central admin, now you have the ability for each region to set up their own lookup tables and only have access to those in order to get that data in, and maybe help to reduce a little bit of that responsibility of the central administrator. So I agree with you. It'll be a great tool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's move on to our next point, which is additional guideline columns available in your reward and recognition programs. So in the past, with reward and recognition, you have a guideline table similar to compensation, but it is a little bit more limited in its features and functionality. So you could set up a guideline table that was based upon country with minimums and maximums and default amounts, increment levels, and so forth. But country and currency were the only criteria that you could use to set up these these guidelines. So now with this new release, you have the ability to add an additional set of criteria to those guidelines for reward and recognition. For example, maybe region, business unit, maybe location might be that additional criteria. So now when you set up your guidelines for your different categories and levels, maybe it's a category of superstar or a category of team player with a level of superstar, that level of superstar might mean something different in one region versus another because of maybe market differences or economic differences. So it makes it a little bit more flexible and a little bit more realistic to set up these guidelines and and when people are giving spot awards to their employees or to their peers, the amount of money that can be given, if we're talking about a monetary program, could be a little bit more realistic for those regions if that's required for the organization. So I really see it as a potential win for customers who are considering the reward and recognition program. Maybe they haven't implemented it quite yet, but they're considering it. And maybe they've decided not to go for it because of the guideline requirements that they have. Now they've got that additional criteria, and hopefully, and I think that this will bring more people on board to the program. What about you, Raj?
Completely agree with you, Kim. I think the spot awards as such has been introduced in the last release, and as you mentioned, the guideline capability restricting specific to country and currency was more of kind of handcuffed when it comes to the current capability which has been released. Yeah. So, I mean, clients can go, set up the guidelines using any of the employee central or employee profile fields. This is something like opens up the complete system, right? Whatever the data being captured to be leveraged if needed to set up a guideline.
Yep.
This basically brings to the end of our release items that we would like to cover part of this session. And the features and new capability released part of the current release cycle not only just enable administrators to control and facilitate better, but provide enhanced user experience for the planners and participants during the compensation planning process. Thanks for joining us, and don't forget, we are here to assist you with your release or implementation needs. Anything from you, Kim?
Thank you for taking the time to watch our quick little guide on the changes that are happening for compensation. Like Raj said, we highlighted features that are both administrator and end user friendly to help to make your compensation planning process a lot smoother and more smiles at the end of your process. Thanks for joining us. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you for joining us. Bye-bye.